The German 24th Panzer Division moving towards Stalingrad. August 1942. In June 1941, Hitler ordered a surprise invasion of the Soviet Union, and for most of the next year the German army routed the Soviet troops, capturing thousands of square kilometers of their country in the process. In August 1942, the 6th Army had pushed all the way to the banks of the Volga River, near the industrial heartland of the USSR. German tanks approached Stalingrad. August 1942. Once captured, the Nazis could sever the Volga and potentially destroy Moscow's ability to continue fighting. All they had to do was take one more city. German soldiers on the outskirts of Stalingrad. 1942. Stalingrad. The pre-war population of Stalingrad was 400,000. German soldiers at Stalingrad fire a 5 cm PaK-38 anti-tank gun. It was home to a key river port as well as numerous important war and civilian industries, because the city bore the name of the leader of the USSR, Joseph Stalin. Hitler took particular interest in capturing the city as a personal hit on the Soviet leader. Germans with an anti-aircraft gun on the banks of the river Volga. September 1942. Stalin likewise placed great importance on holding the city to prevent Hitler from capturing the city carrying his name, though Stalingrad carried significant military importance. The psychological importance both leaders placed on the city elevated it to a level of importance above perhaps even the capital city of Moscow. Commander of the 6th Army General Paulus with General Moritz von Dreber of the 297th Infantry Division. October 1942. Paulus's trouble were yet to begin. The price both armies were willing to pay to possess it transcended military utility and entered fully into the category of obsession. Initially, the Germans made substantial and rapid progress in conquering the city. 2 German soldiers look on curiously as captured Soviet soldiers file past Stalingrad. September 1942. They attacked the city and its defenders with almost uncontested bombardment from the sky, tanks, artillery, mortars and other heavy weapons. By early September 1942, the Germans were still making progress, but the rate of advance had slowed considerably. German soldiers in a trench with a MG-34 machine gun. October 1942. As a result of the enormous bombardment, the city and its buildings had been pulverized into one giant heap of rubble. The Russians began to develop defensive tactics that took advantage of the wrecked buildings, which ironically gave them advantages. Germans prepared to attack in the outskirts of Stalingrad, taking cover behind a Stug 3. Nevertheless, by November the relentless German assault had pushed the Soviet line almost all the way to the Volga River. Both sides had endured hundreds of thousands of casualties at this point, and the barbarity of the fighting on both sides of the line had transcended all bounds of human behavior. Panzer Grenadiers of the 16th Panzer Division of the Wehrmacht who came to the bank of the Volga at Stalingrad. August 25, 1942. Right and wrong, morality, and honor among combatants had ceased to exist. The battle had literally descended into an animalistic struggle to survive. A German soldier rests at Stalingrad. 1942. The turning point of the battle came with a huge Soviet counteroffensive, code-named Operation Uranus, November 1923, which had been planned by Generals Georgy Konstantinovich Zhukov, Alexander Mikhailovich Vasilevsky, and Nikolai Nikolaevich Voronov. It was launched in 2 spearheads, some 50 miles, 80 kilometers, north and south of the German salient whose tip was at Stalingrad. Germans fired the 105mm howitzer Lef-18 in the area of the grain elevator. September 1942. The counteroffensive utterly surprised the Germans, who thought the Soviets incapable of mounting such an attack. The operation was a deep penetration maneuver, attacking not the main German force at the forefront of the battle for Stalingrad, but instead hitting the weaker flanks. German soldiers and officers drink water at Stalingrad. This was before the tide turned. Look at the confidence and aggression on the face of the soldiers. Those flanks were vulnerably exposed on the open steppes surrounding the city and were weakly defended by undermanned, undersupplied, overstretched, and undermotivated Romanian, Hungarian, and Italian troops. The attacks quickly penetrated deep into the flanks, and by November 23 the two prongs of the attack had linked up at Kalisz, about 60 miles, 100 kilometers, west of Stalingrad. The encirclement of the two German armies in Stalingrad was complete. German soldiers waiting for orders to attack. The German High Command urged Hitler to allow Paulus and his forces to break out of the encirclement and rejoin the main German forces west of the city, but Hitler would not contemplate a retreat from the Volga River and ordered Paulus to stand and fight. With winter setting in and food and medical supplies dwindling, Paulus's forces grew weaker. Outskirts of Stalingrad. Germans taking cover. The carnage of the Battle of Stalingrad finally came to an end in February 1943, when the German 6th Army commander, Gen. Friedrich Paulus, surrendered the remaining 90,000 troops of his army to the Soviet forces. Germans walk past burnt tram cars on the streets of Stalingrad. In June 1942, Nazi Germany was looking forward to victory. 6 months and 1 million casualties later, the Reich had barely averted catastrophe. The Germans interred at Stalingrad. The Soviets recovered 250,000 German and Romanian corpses in and around Stalingrad, and total Axis casualties, Germans, Romanians, Italians, and Hungarians, are believed to have been more than 800,000 dead, wounded, missing, or captured. Of the 91,000 men who surrendered, only some 5,000–6,000 ever returned to their homelands, the last of them a full decade after the end of the war in 1945. The rest died in Soviet prison and labor camps. German infantrymen at the Red October factory. On the Soviet side, official Russian military historians estimate that there were 1,100,000 Red Army dead, wounded, missing, or captured in the campaign. To defend the city, an estimated 40,000 civilians died as well. Hauptmann Friedrich Winkler at Stalingrad. He was one of the 91,000 German soldiers who surrendered in 1943. He later died at the POW camp at Beketovka. Photo credit, German and Soviet Archives text, Dennis Showalter Daniel L. A German soldier cleans his rifle in a break between fighting. Autumn 1942. Davis,